Hi everyone, welcome to the Mountaineers Books web series. I'm Doug Canfield, and this evening our presenters are co-authors Anna Katz and Shane Robinson, who will be talking about their new book, Swimming Holes of Washington. As far as Mountaineers Books knows, this is the only guidebook for Washington that gives you lots of new places to explore for fun swimming adventures. Before they were co-authors together, Anna and Shane were swimming friends along with their significant others. It was on these swimming outings that the idea for their book sprouted. And given their individual skills, it was a project that made sense for both of them to do together. Shane is a treehouse builder in the summer and a backcountry ski guide in the winter. He's also kayaked extensively on Washington rivers. So he took on the role of scouting most of the 68 swimming holes that they chose for the book. Anna is a writer and an editor by profession. So she took on those jobs, often also taking Shane's swimming hole descriptions over the phone and turning them into text. So that was the magic that she was doing. For the swimming holes in the book that made the cut, the co-authors prioritized the cleanliness and clearness of the water and also the beauty of the surrounding area. There are both urban and wilderness swimming holes in the book, as well as spots you can just drive up to and others that have a really good hike connected. For tonight's event, our co-sponsor is Puget Sound Keeper, a nonprofit organization whose mission is to protect and preserve the waters of Puget Sound. Puget Sound Keeper also helps support a cool online water quality swimming guide that covers our region. So to find out about the water quality of your favorite swimming hole, you can go to theswimguide.org. And if you're interested in getting involved with Puget Sound Keeper or supporting them, please find them at pugetsoundkeeper.org. Anna and Shane's presentation tonight is going to go for about 30 minutes, and then we will follow that up with the question and answer period. So if you look on the right side of your screen, you can see the question box, and you can submit questions at any time that you'd like. I think that's about it for the introduction, so let's get started. Welcome, Anna and Shane. I'm handing the show over to you.
All right.
Thanks.
Hi. So this is, I'm Anna Katz. This is me. I am a writer and editor. These are my assistants. This is Bonnie and Herschel, and there I am with them. They aren't really very good at typing, but they're good at doing what they're doing, which is staring at me and looking cute. So our story starts about 5 years ago. This has been a long project. Writing a book takes a long time. So about 5 years ago, my now husband, Troy, and I had just started dating. And I was underemployed. So instead of updating my LinkedIn profile or tweaking my resume like a responsible adult would do, I just goofed around by the water. So this is us hanging out. My husband is blowing air rings. He's basically a dolphin. And that's how we got started.
Hello, everyone. This is Shane. And as you see there, a photo of me wearing a puffy coat representing me as a ski guide in the winter. And so I'm always excited when summer rolls around and I get a chance to shed all those layers and simplify life a little and enjoy swimming as often as possible. My team is my wife Jen there on the right, and Huxley, the dog on the right, a Bernese mountain dog, and then we often have other dogs along with us. This is
Zulu.
Zulu, sorry. Zulu chasing a ball at one of the swimming holes. So it's fun to have those people along and animals along for the ride. Keeps me company when I'm out hunting for these swimming holes. This is a photo of Mount Rainier and me skiing up there in the end of June, and this was also about 5 years ago. And on this particular trip, hiking up through what you see, all this dark volcanic hot rock, I kind of asked myself why I find this so fun and why I couldn't be a little bit more of a normal person who likes to just go sit at a beach and hang out on a summer weekend, and rather I prefer to go climb mountains. And so that summer I actually made a conscious decision to relax a little bit more, take life a little easier. And that's when I met Anna. And so here's a photo of some friends, including Anna and my wife there in green with our dog Huxley as a puppy. So you can see how long this project took. He used to fit on our laps. He still tries to fit on our laps, but he's much bigger now. And so we spent a lot of time hanging out at the rivers and lakes. And like it was mentioned, I've spent a lot of time kayaking around the country, and especially here in Washington. So I have a really good understanding of the waterways, especially the rivers of Washington, which helped me find most of these swimming holes. This is the Cowlitz River and kayaking on the Cowlitz. And the geology that makes for good kayaking also makes for really excellent swimming holes. This is obviously at a higher flow of water, which doesn't make for good swimming. So it's important to take note of the season and what the water flows look like if you're to go swimming, and make sure they're low enough and safe enough to swim. And this is an example of the Cowlitz River at a lower flow, just downstream of where we typically kayak. And it's an excellent swimming hole. Another example where my kayaking helped me find these is the Cooper River. The photo on the left is us kayaking, again at a little bit higher flow, and the photo on the right, one of the great swimming holes on the Cooper that's in our book. So yeah, Washington is a really outstanding state for swimming. Despite our weather, we have an abundance of water and rivers, lakes, and of course the ocean. And so we're really just scratching the surface in this book, but we're also excited about the spots we did find, and hope you're able to enjoy them as well.
So first things first, let's talk about safety. This probably for many of you, for most of you, this goes without saying, but we'll just say it anyway. On the left there, you can see my husband again. He's being an absolute maniac on this crazy, crazy rope swing, but he's being a safety first maniac. So though this may look insane, there was a lot that went into putting this swing up, making sure it was safe, making sure the water below was clear and safe. So look before you leap, very important. You don't want to land on a boulder. You want to make sure the water is deep enough. You want to make sure there's no pointy sticks down there. Rope swings are, of course, dangerous. So you always want to check ropes, knots, the tree. You want to check the water conditions. When in doubt, stay out. And then, of course, confirm the water's depth. We do have a fair number of swimming holes in this book that have rope swing and cliff jumping. So it's very important that you all stay safe out there. There's a good quote right there from Lower Lewis Falls. Beneath the flowing water lurks injury and death. So on that happy note, stay safe out there. Okay, etiquette. This is a big one, especially now that Seattle is growing. You have to go pretty far out to be all by yourself. We did make a point of including many swimming holes where you can find some solitude, but there's a good chance you are going to have to deal with other human beings. So when you get to a swimming hole, you need to read the room. A few years ago, I went to a swim spot where there was a bunch of kids, and then these teenagers showed up and they were blasting heavy metal music, and that stuck in my head as maybe not being the most appropriate, respectful thing to do. So try not to put on your heavy metal music and smoke your cigarettes and swear. And then, of course, reading the room includes the wildlife and the natural environment. Mountaineers is all about obeying the camping rule, the campsite rule. Just take care of the environment. Whatever you bring in, make sure you bring out. Obey land use regulations such as permits, rules for dogs, etc. Pay for permits. All that money goes to a good place. So just don't hesitate to pay those fees. And then leave your Rolex at home. No no fancy, expensive items with you when you go to your swimming hole. So we get asked a lot, what makes a swimming hole good? It's subjective. I like lakes. This is me in Lake Washington, which is, I count it as a swimming hole. It is my favorite swimming hole. I love urban swimming holes. I think this is maybe January. Lake Washington shot. I prefer the just sort of mellow, calm, the calmness of lakes generally. Here is us again hanging out from 5 years ago. Shane, on the other hand, likes rivers. Like he said, he's up for an adventure. He likes to climb mountains. He likes to go down fast-moving water. He just is into rivers. So we have a lot of those in the book too. We try to get a good mix of lakes and rivers, spots that are more mellow, spots that maybe have a little more excitement going on. Here's a Racehorse Creek Falls. This is a really nice one. And this is Nooksack River South Fork. This is on the roadside east of Bellingham. Great tubing. This is a river, but as you can see, at least in this moment, it's pretty calm. So a few of the things we are looking for: cleanliness of water, beauty of the surrounding area, the company you'll find or wonderful lack thereof, what it takes to get there, and what you can do once you're there. The cleanliness of water. All the swimming holes in this book are clean, but some people really just want crystal clear, and some people don't mind a little bit of sediment or plant matter. This one is Lewis River Middle Falls in Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, northeast of Woodland and Cougar, and it's clear water from Mount Adams glacial melt, and it's super clear, as you can see. You can see all the boulders down there. It's very beautiful. Speaking of beauty, beauty of the surrounding area, which is in the eye of the beholder. So some people aren't super into things like graffiti or just the structures of urban environments, and some people like it. So we included a wide range. People who don't want any of that, they just want trees, they just want rocks and beaches. There are swimming holes for those folks, and then there's folks where they don't mind being near a city. This is Cooper River Cliff Jump. This is definitely a scene. So this is one of the swimming holes where people are always jumping off and partying and having a good time. I think I talked to someone who said that they call this the spring break swimming hole because it's always like that. And it's where outdoor enthusiasts can converge: hikers, kayakers, campers. So if you're into solitude, this is not the spot for you. We tend to like our quiet time, so we put in many swimming holes where you can go and be out and peaceful. What to do once, or how to get somewhere. So hike in, drive in, bike in, and boat in. There are a few. So we have a lot of swimming holes where you can really just pull over to the side of the road and walk 100 feet down to the water, and there you are. But we also included many where it takes a little bit more effort to get to. So this one is Kolchak Lake, and this is you have to hike in the Alpine Lake Wilderness on Stewart Lake Trail in the Enchantment. So it can be a day hike to get to this particular lake, but there are lots of people who backpack. This one is Lummi Island, and the only way to get here is by kayak. So you have to really know what you're doing to go to this one. What to do when you get there. This one is Lake Crescent. This is one of my favorites. It's beautiful. It's incredibly clear, and there's a lodge here, and it's really easy to find all these great activities. You can see people canoeing, kayaking, picnicking, kayak, snorkeling, doing all that stuff. This one in particular, it's so clear that people do free diving and scuba here. So this is a great one if you want some extra activities. Denny Blaine, Lake Washington again. This is a good one for polar plunges in the winter. You can see a bunch of people freezing. I think this is maybe January or February. And then we have Coal Lake off Mountain Loop Highway in Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest. This one's easy to get to, but secluded with a couple campsites, first come, first serve. And here's Mason Lake. This one's really popular. If you're a hiker, you've probably heard of it or been to it. It's off Iris Springs Trail. And what's great about this one is there are lots of choices for how to get in. So you can walk around the perimeter of the lake, and there are boulders you can climb on. There's shallow, sandy wade-ins, and then there's also some campsites. This one is not in the book. This is Lopez Island, and we just included it because so much of this process was hunting for swimming holes. And in Washington, every time you turn around, there's a swimming hole. Basically, you just have to find a way into it. So it's really a do-it-yourself kind of adventure.
So I've organized a little bit of a best of collection just to give you a sense of what you can expect in the book. We didn't organize our book in this manner. It's organized a bit more regionally in different areas of the state, but I just thought this might be fun for tonight to give you a little taste of what you can find in the book. So I really like swimming holes that have a way to jump in. I'm not a big fan of like wading in. I'd rather just go for it and jump in. So I really like cliff jumps. Kind of a fun story about this particular spot, which is Mirror Lake. And I don't remember how I had heard about Mirror Lake, but somebody had told me about it and said it had a good cliff jump. And I was actually on my way to Snow Lake, a really popular hiking destination on Snoqualmie Pass, which I'd been to a bunch in the winter, but I'd never been there in the summer. And when I pulled up to the trailhead in the summer, it looked like a busy day at the ski area, right off Snoqualmie ski area. And I was kind of shocked by how crowded it was. And I didn't want to deal with that many people. So I decided to go just over Snoqualmie Pass to Mirror Lake and hiked into here. And once I was here, there were maybe a dozen people at the whole lake and just had a great time. This couple was really fun and posed for me a couple times on this jump. And the lake is beautiful. And so this is a good example where we didn't include Snow Lake because it's so crowded and so well known. And we tried to find a couple alternatives to some of those super busy ones. And like somebody told me, it is a really nice cliff jump into beautiful deep water. One of my favorite cliff jumps, or it's technically, I guess, a tree jump, was this discovery on Orcas Island. It's like this gigantic bonsai-like tree. It's not a bonsai tree, but it has the appearance of one. And you can climb out on some of the limbs and jump off of the tree itself. Never quite experienced anything like that. So that was really unique and really fun discovery. And then on the right here is Cushman Reservoir, an area known as Big Rock. And for obvious reasons, you can see why it's called that, and also see why it's such a good spot for cliff jumping. It's kind of a perfect size, not too tall, but tall enough to get a little thrill. And it's also super deep because you're jumping into a lake. So that's nice. And then this is Whatcom Falls Park, right in Bellingham. And it's a really cool area. It's kind of got this communal feel. You can see in the background, there's like some tubes and kids and families. There's always a big crowd here. People really use this spot, both the park and this particular swimming hole. And then more in the foreground, you see people kind of like huddled up around the cliffs. And those are the cliffs you can jump off of on both sides. The water is often murky here and not super deep. So this is a good one to use some caution, make your own judgment on whether it's safe or not for your skill set. And you don't have to necessarily go off the highest point, even though a lot of people often are going off those. So definitely like a scene here, and a lot of people hanging out most of the time, which is fun if that's what you're into. And so then some good spots for dogs. This is Washougal River, Dugan Falls, and there's my dog again, Huxley. Almost everyone loves my dog, but nobody really likes a wet dog that's going to come over and shake off on your towel or even just on you. So if you're a dog person and you're going to bring your dogs to these swimming holes, you just need to be extra considerate, both of what your dog is doing and where at the swimming hole you're going to go and use it. And so I put this photo in because we're downstream of kind of the main spot, and it's a little shallower down here, and it's also less crowded. So it's a good example of how, if you're going to take your dog, just be aware of maybe like you need to not go to the prime real estate and kind of go around the corner or something, where you're not going to bother other people. It also depends a lot on what kind of dog you have and how athletic they are, and what the actual spot is like. So another spot, this is right outside, right basically in Duval, the town of Duval on the Snoqualmie River. And again, we're kind of downstream of the prime beach and where all the people congregate. And this is kind of an unofficial dog zone, is to move downriver. And when we were here, there were a handful of dogs playing ball like this and kind of having their own little space. So that was set up really nice for both the dogs and the humans to have kind of their own area. And then the Klickitat River, we talk about in the book about being a unique river where there's really dozens of great spots. We highlight a couple, and this makes for a good spot for dogs, because if you were to show up at this particular spot and saw a bunch of people there, you really just would have to maybe go around the corner, and you can kind of find your own little eddy or beach. And again, you know, if you're going to bring your dogs, just be considerate of how other people are using it and what kind of impact you might bring to that area. And the Klickitat's great for that, because there's just miles of river beside the road, with lots of pullouts and lots of options. This is what's called Big Eddy on the Skykomish River, and I really like this spot in general, but it's especially good for kids. As you can see here, there's a nice little kind of kiddie pool, but right behind me, where I'm taking the photo, is kind of more of the main beach and main swimming area, which is deeper and better for the adults and the big kids, but there is this nice shallow area once the water gets low. There's quite a bit of space and a lot to do here in the water. The parking is very close. There's bathrooms, and you're also right off Highway 2 and close to a number of different towns. So you have a lot of services, and it's quite easy to just kind of get in and out with the kids and any kind of supplies and toys that you might have with you. And this just has a lot of variety for everyone to have fun for the whole day. This is that same one that I just showed for the dogs, right in the town of Duval on the Snoqualmie River. And the dog zone is kind of in the background, like where all the people kind of are not, essentially. That's where the dogs are. And so you can see here where all the people, especially the kids, are hanging out. It's got this awesome sandy beach that the kids can run up and down and play in. And you can see there's a nice like transition into the water. So you have some shallow water and deeper water. There's a lot of facilities here: outdoor showers, bathroom, bike trails, parking, and easy access. And again, right in the town of Duval, so if you need some food or other supplies, it's really easy to get there. And then I really like this spot also, especially for kids and families. This is the North Skokomish out on the Olympic Peninsula. It's right at the trailhead to the Staircase Trail. So you're in the Olympic National Park. Right off this bridge is the visitor center to the national park. So you have a lot of services, parking lot, campground, bathrooms, and then you also have this really excellent trail to go do some adventures on too if you'd like. And it's a nice trail whether you go 1 mile or all the way to the top, which I believe is close to 20 miles to the end of this trail. And so kind of really something for everyone there. And you can end with a dip in the river or just make the river your destination and not go for a hike at all, just play in the river all day. This slide is less about the best of kids and kind of a story I have to tell, but it is also a great kid spot or family spot. A little bit more for the older kids as you want to be able to swim. There's not as much shallow terrain here. You're kind of into deeper water almost immediately. But you can see there's just a lot of people having fun at this one. And this is over on the Olympic Peninsula. I went over there for the day with my wife and again, my dog, Huxley, the whole team. And we had hoped to get to 2 or 3 spots. We went here first. And then as the day went on, we went down to Cushman Lake. And we were thinking about going to a 3rd one, but it was going to be a couple-hour drive and the day was getting kind of late. So we debated whether to go. We decided to go for it, and Google took us on a detour, aka shortcut to this Spoon Falls. The cool thing that happened was on the way, a mountain lion jumped out in front of us on the road, and it was the first time either my wife or I had ever seen a mountain lion in the wild. The cat jumped out into the road, took a couple steps, and then jumped into the forest on the other side of the road. It only lasted for a second, but I like to say it was one of the coolest 1-second experiences I've had. And we wouldn't have had it had we not decided to kind of go for it and go find this additional swimming hole for the day. So a good reminder to add that extra bit of activity into your day. And swimming holes are great for that, kind of an extra thing you can do at the end of the day. As Anna mentioned, this project's lasted quite a while. It's been almost 5 years or maybe more than 5 years now that since we first started talking about it. In that time, I've gotten a new job. The treehouse job is a couple years new to me now. And one summer I got sent out to Orcas Island to build a treehouse. And so that's where I discovered some of the swimming spots on Orcas, including this rope swing, one of my favorite spots out there and somewhere I went many days after work. So really fun getting to know that island and a couple of the great swimming spots out there. And kind of similar to the mountain lion story, one day I was headed home for the weekend from Orcas Island, and someone had told me about Whistle Lake, and it had this good cliff jump. And I had been working all week. I was kind of tired and had to muster some extra energy to go take a detour to this lake, hike around to the backside of it to find this cliff jump, which was fun to watch all these kids jumping off. And then on the way back to the car, this owl was right beside the trailhead, or I mean, not the trailhead, but right beside the trail. And my dog and I were able to just kind of hang out there, and the owl didn't get scared, and he watched us and we watched him, and he twisted his neck around like owls do. And so another good reminder to go swimming after other activities or after work, just kind of a fun thing to add to your day. And hopefully you can see some owls or mountain lions too if you go track down all these swimming holes. Finally, I want to end with one of my favorite discoveries. This is Suisun Creek. The spelling's down there on the right. And it's down near Mount Adams. Despite it having some kayaking on it, I'd never heard of this creek prior to this project. Somewhere along the way in my research, I heard it had some really nice water and potentially some swimming pools, but I never found a photo of it, so I didn't really know what to expect. And it has just this beautiful trail that you can see on the left, just really lush and northwesty and and easy hiking, and the water follows the trail for the most part and is super clear and beautiful, as you can see. And then eventually you come to these giant pools that are just perfect for swimming and almost bottomless. I mean, I couldn't see the depth of them. They're really, really deep and really fun to swim in, although quite cold, but I like cold water. So I just really enjoyed this find in the research for this book. So here's a little idea of where all the spots are in our book. We tried to kind of touch all the corners of the state. We didn't. I challenge anyone to go to all of them. I don't even think I've been to all of them yet, because Anna found some and I found most, but I haven't been to all the ones that Anna found. So I'm still working on getting to all of them, but let us know if anyone beats me to that. And of course, we have our social media websites, Instagram and Facebook. You can find out a bit more. I took over 1,000 photos for this book, and only the best ones made it in. And so we'll be sharing more photos and updates if we learn of anything that changes about the swimming holes. We have some more events coming up this summer, and so this is just a good way to stay up to date on all things Swimming Hole Washington. So follow us there, tell your friends. And if you want to learn more about Anna, she has her website there. Hello, Anna Katz. I don't have a dedicated website, but my Instagram is a good way to keep up with my adventures and tree houses and skiing and swimming and all the other things I like to do. And then, like I mentioned, we have the Instagram account is probably the best, but we'll also try and keep the Facebook site up to date if you're more of a Facebook person. And so now we're going to do a little bit of Q&A.
Okay, thank you. And I loved your photos, by the way. I thought that was a lot of fun. But let's get to a question. So this question, Shane, is inevitable. I know you've guessed this one because you are a backcountry ski guide and you've found lots of rivers and places to run as a kayaker. And Julia asks, didn't you want to keep these secret places secret?
Yeah, this is definitely a popular question. When I started this project, I really did think I'd be finding a bunch of secret places, and maybe secret in quotes, air quotes. As we started to do this project, it became apparent to me quite quickly that none of these places are secret, especially in Washington, where our hot sunny days are so precious. If you get a day with 80-degree temperatures, all you have to do is go drive alongside a river or a lake, and you'll see where the swimming holes are because everybody's there. So if you really want them to be secret, you have to go in the off times, whether that's like a cooler day or a weekday. That's when you might get the sense that they're secret. But at least the spots in our book, I wouldn't call any of them secret. They were either easy to find online or easy to find once you kind of just get out and about and start poking around in the backcountry. So I don't feel like I'm disclosing any of my personal secrets, and I don't think I'm disclosing any of the community's secrets either. So.
Okay. Steve asks, what's the coldest swimming hole in the book?
What's your coldest?
Well, my coldest is Lake Washington in February. So Lake Washington gets down to 44 degrees, or that's the lowest when I've been in, and you just got to go in the winter, and it's amazing. And then the great thing about Lake Washington, if you live nearby, is you can rush home and get in the bath.
And for me, I would say probably the Ohanapakash River. I ended up going to that one really early in the season. I think it was still June, so probably still some snow melt, but it's also quite close to Mount Rainier, flowing right out of the glaciers on Mount Rainier, so it just doesn't have much time to warm up. And at the point I went there for the swimming hole book, I've also kayaked there. It was like bone chilling cold, like some of the coldest water I've ever jumped in. So that would get my vote.
I just have a follow-up personal question, but you do have a number of swimming holes up there near Rainier. Are they all pretty cold?
Well, I'm trying to remember the exact format of our book now. I believe our Rainier chapter does include a few on the east side of Chinook Pass, and those aren't quite as cold, but Washington rivers and lakes kind of tend to just stay on the colder side. The more I think about this now, there are actually a couple warm ones in the Rainier chapter, but the ones closest to Rainier definitely are quite cold.
Okay. Well, Joe asks, favorite swimming hole within 30 minutes of Seattle?
Good question, Joe. I really like, well, I've said this a million times, I really like Lake Washington, but that's probably not what you want to hear. I think Exit 38 is really cool. And that one is off Exit 38 off I-90. And so you just drive east for a ways, and it's in Old Park. And so it's really easy to get to if you're going east, coming back from the east. And it's nice and quiet for being close to a big highway.
Yeah, that's one I was thinking of too. It's slightly farther than 30 minutes, but that's a nice one. It's close.
Susan asks, is there a way to know if the water is clean? I'm not sure if she means crystal clean or just, safe, healthy.
Well, so all the, like I said earlier, all the swimming pools in this book are clean. There is a way to check if you're out about in the world and you have your phone on you. You can go to the Department of Ecology and they rate the water cleanliness. There's 5 levels, I think. And I don't know how often they update it, but you can go. It can be a little bit difficult to decipher what they're talking about, but they have a handy dandy YouTube video to help you figure out how to understand the more scientific, technical terminology. So there is a way to stay up to date.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would also add that sometimes the water plays tricks on your eyes, and it can look darker or murkier than it actually is. And if you just kind of take a scoop of water, either in your hands or if you have a cup or something, and kind of isolate it in a different environment, sometimes you see like how much content, like whether it's plant matter or whatever is in the water. And sometimes you'll be surprised and you'll actually see that there's more plant life, pollen or whatnot, than you might have expected. But more often than not, I actually find that it's clearer than you think it is, because when you look at it in its natural environment, you're seeing everything below the water.
Okay. Lyson, I hope I pronounced that right, but she's asking, let's see, in your opinion, what is the most beautiful swimming hole or the most remote? So it's a 2-parter.
I think the most beautiful is, there's so many. I really love Lake Crescent because it is so clear. And if you want to go in and dive down, you can just see, it feels like you can see forever through the water. And it's just the most beautiful blue clear. So that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I would, what was Christine or?
What was beautiful?
The most beautiful in your.
I really like that Susan Creek that I kind of ended the slideshow with. That was a real favorite of mine for beauty. Punch Bowl Falls in Oregon, we have 1 or 2 in Oregon just across the Columbia River, is exceptionally beautiful. And then remote, I would say remote is weird because Woolchuck Lake is quite remote in terms of distance from cars and highways, and yet it's one of the farther ones you have to hike to in our book. But it's also fairly popular because it's in the Enchantments, which is a very popular area to go to. But there's one called Lazy Bear Falls on Falls Creek, which is, if I had to guess, that would be one that you're going to be least likely to see people on. It might not be the farthest from roads, but it takes a little extra effort to get there, and it's a little more off the beaten path. So I would kind of give that one my most remote.
Okay. Peter's question is, what is the best hike plus swim in the book?
Well, the enchantments are pretty amazing, and Kolchak Lake is just beautiful, and you know, a nice. I mean, it's gonna be cold, but it's a really nice place to go swimming. And it is nice to know that you can do the enchantments without a permit as a day hike. So that one would probably be pretty high on my list, and it's one of our farther hikes. So if you're a hiker, that one might be nice. You did Cole and Mason; they might be good ones too.
Yeah, I really like Mason Lake. It's pretty popular. It's a popular hike, so there will be a lot of other people on the trail. But it's you go up on a mountainside, you go through the forest, you kind of get all the different northwesty things you would want to get on a hike, and then you end up in this beautiful big lake. So I like Mason Lake a lot for that.
And I'll just add one more to that question. I thought we'd do a few more hike-ins when we started the book, and I ended up, maybe this is just my own subjective taste, but I ended up not liking those as much because you hike in, and then you swim, and then you hike back to your car, and then you're hot again, and you kind of want to swim again. So I ended up liking the ones where the swimming was closer to the car, but maybe you go for a hike first. And so a great one in that example is the staircase on the North Skokomish, because it's an outstanding hike in the Olympic National Forest or Olympic National Park. But the swimming hole is actually at the trailhead. So you kind of go do your hike, and then you come back, and then when you're all sweaty, you can jump in the river. And then you're also quite close to Lake Cushman. So you kind of have two options there to do some swimming on the back end of your hike, and then you get to jump in your car and you're not sweaty and you're refreshed. So that's another way to think about hiking and swimming.
Jackie asks if there are suggestions for tubing in your book.
We have a few. The tubing spots that I found for the most part tended to be like really crowded, almost like overly crowded. So we steered away from some really obvious tubing spots, but we did mention spots that would lend themselves to tubing. Big Eddy on the Skokomish, and the lower down on the Skokomish in the town of Monroe are two spots that come to mind. Also, the South Fork of the Nooksack outside of Bellingham is another really good one. So we do give a little suggestion on where to do some tubing, but there's also some really popular tubing spots in the state. They're pretty easy to figure out online, but they're the more crowded ones. So if you kind of read between the lines in our book, you get less crowded options, and hopefully that sets people up.
Okay. And I'm a dog lover, so I'm going to ask this one. Do you have did the descriptions say which ones you can bring dogs to and which ones you can't?
Yeah, yeah. For the there are a couple you can't, but for the most part, you can bring dogs to all of them. There are definitely ones that are more dog friendly, which tend to be the less crowded ones. And then there are ones where we recommend not bringing your dog to, which just tend to be the more crowded ones. But you could still bring them there. They would just probably need to stay on a leash and not get to do the full like swimming, throwing balls and sticks experience.
Okay. All right. So if we don't have any more questions, we can kind of run through them. I just want to thank you guys. I thought that was really awesome. I can't wait to use the book. It's a little bit too cold for me right at the moment, but you know, another month from now, or maybe when I get tired of sweating in our current weather, I'll be opening it for sure. And thank you, audience, for joining us tonight. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. Swimming Holes of Washington is fresh off the press, so probably hasn't even got to every store around, but it'll be on shelves any day if you don't find it already. and it'll be sold wherever books are sold, and also on mountaineersbooks.org. And if you use this code, dive in, DIVEIN, dive in, you'll receive a 20% discount on our own website, mountaineersbooks.org. That code again is dive in, but if you don't have a pencil, don't worry about it, because we're going to email you the code in a day or two, and also the recording if you didn't catch it all, you came in late or something like that, or want to pass it on to a friend. And we're also giving away 3 copies of the book in a drawing, and we're going to do that and mail them out within the next week. So our next web series event will be in September. We're skipping July and August, so we have more time to go swimming. And we hope you have plenty of time to do that too. And thanks again for joining us tonight. And we'll hope to see you at a swimming hole. Thanks, Hannah and Shane. Appreciate it.